Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me in the back? Yeah, wonderful. Perfect. Last time we had a glitch with the mic. I'm glad we fixed it this time. So my name is Brahm Vasudev. Brahm is in Brahm's love. That would be an easy way to remember. And I'm a nephrologist. I've been here about 17 years at MCW. I came here for training to be a kidney doctor. And then by the time I was done with training, they did not let me leave. So here I am, 17 years out, and really honored to be a part of this wonderful institution where I work. So what we'll do today is that, first of all, I want to acknowledge some of the people who made this thing happen, including all the volunteers and John in the back, setting up this whole place, sending out the flyers, all that kind of work. So that was really very nice of them. What I'm going to do today is that I'm going to be talking about kidneys in general, just to increase your basic understanding of what this organ does. I'll talk about the structure, I'll talk about the function, I'll talk about some of the kidney diseases, how, if you have a kidney problem, does a kidney doctor kind of address or figure out what kind of kidney problem that you have, and then how do we manage kidney disease in general. So starting off with the structure of the kidney, I'm going to use an example of a car, which all of us are very familiar with, of course. So just like a car is made of different parts that come together to make this, wonderful driving machine, our body is very similar. And if you, go down to a structural level, you can see that there are atoms and molecules that make cells. Cells combine and make tissue. Tissue makes organs, and then all these organs come together in harmony to make an amazing human body. So, the gastrointestinal organ system will have pharynx, esophagus, stomach, liver, gallbladder, so on and so forth. Similarly, our respiratory system will have the lungs, the trachea, the larynx, and so on and so forth. So all these organs, they essentially come together and make our body. As most of you all know, that our hands and legs essentially muscles, bones, and blood vessels. And all our organs are essentially housed in our abdomen, thorax, and of course, the brain inside in the head. And all these organs, as I said, come together and make our body work. If you remove the anterior abdominal wall and intestine, this is how our body looks from inside. In the back end of our abdomen, we have two kidneys. Kidneys are getting blood supply from one of the vessels coming out from the heart. There's spleen on the left side. There's liver on the right side. The urinary bladder is all the way down here. And you can see that the kidneys, when they make urine, the urine comes out via these two tubes called ureters, which take the urine into the bladder, and then we periodically pee it out. So this is what the male urinary system looks like, as I just described. Two kidneys, ureters, they drain urine into the bladder, and then we periodically make urine. Kidneys are ballpark about the size of a fist, and I'll show you some real pictures as we move along. I was telling you that kidney gets its blood supply from one of the vessels, which is seen here in red, which is called the aorta. It gives out two branches called the renal artery. One goes into each kidney. Kidney cleans the blood. The clean blood is returned back via these blue vessels back into the body. And then the urine that the kidney makes come via these two ureters into the urinary bladder, and then we periodically eat out. This is how kidneys look like. They're bean-shaped organs, ballpark the size of a fist. If you were to splice the kidney, you can see there's a pink outer area, and then there is this white area in the center, which is essentially the urine and drains it into the urinary bladder. If you were to make a cut section of the kidney, this is how it looks like. As I was telling you earlier, the blood goes into the kidney via this red blood vessel. These vessels divide into various branches. When the vessels reach the peripheral part of the kidney, this is where all the filters are. And then the blood is cleaned and returned back via this blue vein that you see, and then back into the body. This is another diagram showing that about 20% of the blood that's pumped by the heart liters of that blood would actually go into the kidney. Even though kidney is just the size of fist, it's a very small organ, but it does get a large proportion of the blood supply. And as you can see in the diagrams on the right, it's the same cut section that I had shown earlier. The blood vessels dividing, this is where all the filters are. If I were to magnify this peripheral part of the kidney, this is what it looks like. These small round structures that you see, these are the filters in the kidney that clean the blood. A scanning electron micrograph of a filter reveals that this is how a filter looks like. It's basically a bag of blood vessels. And what our body does is that the blood flows into this filter. All the toxins and the electrolytes in our blood really leak out through this filter, and they find their way into this plumbing system called the tubules. These tubules have receptors and channels to reabsorb everything good that we need, and things that our body doesn't need, just dumps it out. So things like blood urea nitrogen, creatinine, which is another toxin that our body makes. Once that creatinine leaks out from the blood and finds its way into this yellow tube, there is no way for that toxin to go except out into the urine. It's a fantastic strategy, right? Filter everything out, reabsorb stuff that you need, and don't reabsorb stuff that you don't need. And that allows for regulation. So let's say I'm a healthy person, 2 normal kidneys, and I start eating a bucket load of salt every day. You know what my kidney is going to do? At some point, it will sense that I'm eating too much salt, and it will pee all the salt out. So if I ever want to know how much salt you're eating, all I need to do is collect your 24-hour urine. Whatever amount of salt is in that urine, that's the amount of salt that you ate the day previous. Now, this regulation, can only hold on for a certain amount of time. If I keep eating a bucket load of salt every day, I mean, at some point, I'll obviously get into a lot of trouble with hypertension and water retention and so on and so forth. But the mechanism is very good. It allows for regulation. So back to our car. Just like, a car needs an engine to generate power, kidney cannot work until the heart pumps blood to the kidney. And we have this wonderful organ, which John was saying steals the show all the time because it is vital for survival. Heart stops, life stops. Kidney stops, there are still options, but heart stops, life stops. So, and you imagine, a person who lives to be about 72 years of age, our heart would beat ballpark about 2 to 3 billion times in our lifetime. So this is a heart beating, as you can see from outside. If you were to make a cut section of the heart, this is how a beating heart looks like. You can see that there are chambers in the heart, the right chamber, the left chamber. These are the valves that open and close. You can at least see 3 valves here, 1, 2, and 3. These valves allow for a unidirectional blood flow. The blood generally doesn't leak back in the back direction. And that's very important, and I'll come back in a bit. And people who have murmurs, like a lot of time when we get older, doctors will listen to your heart and say you have a murmur. That murmur is because of something wrong with the valve of the heart. Either it's too tight and the blood cannot flow through it, or it's leaky and the blood flows in the opposite direction, creating a sound of a murmur. As I was telling you earlier, there's the right side of the heart, the left side of the heart. There are 4 different chambers. And how it works is simplistic in a way that blood comes from the body into the right chamber of the heart. Heart then pumps it into the lungs. The lungs oxygenate this blood. Once the blood is oxygenated, it comes back into the left side of the heart. And then the left side of the heart pumps it into the body. And the blood goes into the body, oxygen is used up, and then the blood comes back to the heart to get oxygenated. This is another picture showing how heart pumps blood to various organs. And this is a picture showing how most of our organs are covered by these blood vessels, which as are larger at the start, and then they become smaller and smaller, and essentially supply blood to our tissue and cells and so on and so forth. So what does kidney do for us? Kidney does lots of things. The first thing it does is it maintains a fluid balance. Think about the time when you were 25 years of age, you went to a bar and had 5 beers, right? A lot of water. Kidney sensed that you drank a lot of water, and the kidney made urine, and you were able to pee out all that extra water. Now that works very well if you have two good functioning kidneys that are functioning at 100% capacity. The kidneys are working at 50% capacity or 30% capacity, and you drink a lot of water, you won't be able to pee it out. And then that water will go in your legs, and your legs will start to swell. So that's why when people have kidney disease, we tell them to not drink too much water. Kidney also helps in electrolyte regulation. Remember, I was telling you if I start eating a bucket full of salt every day, salt is essentially this chemical called sodium chloride. So even if I eat a lot of salt, my salt level in the body will not go up because my kidney is going to be able to dump the salt out. Also, when you go to a bar, many times they serve free pretzels. Why do they do that? Why do they give free pretzels in a bar? So that you drink beer. Try it out. Like, take something salty, put it in your mouth. The next thing you would want is water. Right? And that's a regulation that the body has. Otherwise, if you just keep eating salt and you're not consuming water, your salt levels can go up. So when you drink water, it neutralizes those levels. Kidney also helps in acid-base balance. Our body makes a lot of acid every day, and kidney has a mechanism to jump out this acid. So it's telling you that kidney also helps with waste removal. So a lot of toxins that are made in the body, they are excreted out by the kidney. Kidney also has many hormonal functions. It makes a hormone that goes to your bone and helps the bone to make red blood cells. So when people have kidney dysfunction or kidney failure, they actually cannot make enough red blood cells and they become anemic. Similarly, it helps, maintain balance of calcium, phosphorus in the body by making active form of vitamin D and so on. So what are the symptoms of kidney disease? Like if somebody has a kidney that's not working well, what will they complain of? If somebody has heart disease, let's say their blood vessel in the heart gets blocked at 80, 90%, they'll have chest pain. If somebody develops allergic reaction to a medicine, they'll have a rash on their skin. They'll go to the doctor right away because they'll notice that there's something wrong. So what are the symptoms? Let's say if I have two kidneys and I give away my kidney, one of my kidneys to somebody else. Will I have any symptoms? The answer is no. And I'll go back to the car as an analogy. If you have a car with full tank of gas versus full tank of gas, does the car drive any differently? No, the car just drives the same. Right? Similarly, if I donate one of my kidney away, let's say I had 100% kidney function and now it has become 50%, I won't feel a difference. I will feel no different whatsoever. That's how people donate organs. People donate a kidney because giving away the kidney does not cause any symptoms in the donor. Symptoms occur when this fuel gauge reaches that red mark and the blinker goes on that, there is no more gas left in the car. So kidney disease is generally not symptomatic until the kidney function comes down to 10% or 15%. That's when people have symptoms. And that's why many people don't know they have a kidney problem because it's completely asymptomatic. What about the diseases of the kidney? What are some of the diseases that affect the kidney? So kidney diseases can be acute, like a classic example is somebody gets into an accident, a truck runs over their leg, the cells of the muscles break, and all the toxic products from the muscle breakdown end up in the kidney, get stuck, and cause acute kidney failure. The kidney stops making urine, and until we do something, the patient would get into a lot of problems. Another kind of kidney disease is chronic kidney disease, somebody who's hypertensive, somebody who's diabetic. Over a period of time, high blood pressure, high blood sugars will damage the kidney, that a person might lose 5 or 10% of kidney function every year. And if they started off with 100 and then losing 10% per year, in 10 years they develop kidney failure and end up on dialysis. So that's the chronic kidney disease part. There are certain diseases that are in a way genetic, that as the kidney develops, it doesn't develop very well. It might develop some problems with the filters, it might develop cysts in the kidney, or there can be some other problems with the membranes in the filter, which can be again either genetic or acquired later on in life. But these are intrinsic problems to the kidney that can occur over a period of time. Sometimes kidney can get involved in systemic disease, in the sense that the disease is not particularly related to kidney, like diabetes being a classic example. It's a problem of blood sugar control, but if the sugars are very high for a long period of time, they will hurt the kidney and the kidney function will go down. A lot of people on the coast, they'll have this disease called sickle cell disease, where their red blood cells become sickle shaped and get stuck in the kidney and cause kidney dysfunction. Many people do drugs. I have a patient who tried cocaine and he took larger than the usual dose that his friends take. And one dose of cocaine led to kidney failure. A lot of these drugs and stuff like that can also injure kidney. Sometimes people take antibiotic, and that antibiotic might cause an allergic reaction in the kidney, leading to failure of it's thought that a lot of people have reduced kidney function. So in the United States, the estimates are that it might be close to about 20 million people who have reduced kidney function, less than 100% kidney function. Luckily, most people who do have reduced kidney function, it's only mildly reduced. If you have a car and there is a half a tank of gas in it, it can still drive around. You don't need to have a full tank of gas all the time. So you can live with reduced kidney function also. You don't have to have 100% kidney function also. Problem becomes when the kidney function becomes very low, less than 10%. At that time, if we don't do something, the toxins that accumulate because of such low levels of kidney function can cause lots of problems, lots of symptoms. So luckily, there are not a lot of people in this country who have severely reduced kidney function. I would say there are barely about 500,000 people out of these 20 million people that I'm telling you who have chronic kidney disease, who have kidney function that's so low that either they need dialysis or they need transplant. So how do we figure out, and think about the time, last time you went to a doctor, how do they figure out what kind of a problem somebody has? Generally, there's a strategy that we use, and you'll see it's consistent between one doctor and the other. Whenever you come and meet us in the clinic, we'll obtain a good history, about your previous medical issues, what medicines you are taking, so on and so forth. We do a good physical exam to try and see if your complaints match with the physical exam or not. We typically order some blood tests, which are very helpful in figuring out. Like you cannot tell, whether my kidney function is 100% or 50%, 25%. But by the blood test, you can figure out what level of kidney function it has. So that's what we do. We order a bunch of blood tests to tell us, what level of kidney function a person has. We order a urine test as well sometimes. Sometimes we take a urine sample from a patient and we look at the urine under the microscope. And many a times we can figure out what's going on in the kidney just by looking at the contents of urine. Many a times we order tests like ultrasound, CT scans, and last but not the least, if we can't figure out, what kind of kidney problem somebody has, we can put a needle in the kidney, take a piece out, look under the microscope, and that's the ultimate truth. That's the most specific way to actually know what's going on. But since it's an invasive thing, with needle in the kidney is not easy and carries complications, we try our level best that at least in 9 out of 10 cases, by the first 4 steps, we try and figure out what kind of problem somebody has. So I mentioned about the physical exam. I was telling you about the blood test. Typically, we use something called as serum creatinine. I don't know how many if you have kidney problems, hopefully none, but if you do, this is a marker of kidney function. It's called serum creatinine. It's a chemical that's made by our body. Kidney is the only organ that excretes it out. Normal creatinine is a 1. So let's say if you check my creatinine and it's 2, that would mean that my kidney is working barely at 50%. So when it goes from 1 to 2, it reflects a reduction in kidney function by ballpark about 50%. I was telling you about urine tests. We do urine analyses, we do urine microscopy, and that helps figure out as to what's going on in our kidney. Many a times when people have inflammation of the filters in the kidney, so this is a cartoon showing inflammation within the filter of the kidney, the blood is leaking out, and if the blood leaks out, it can form what is called as a cast, which is what is microscope. And if we see a cast in somebody's urine, we know that they have inflammation of the filter, which is contributing to the renal dysfunction. The imaging can be very helpful. I give people an example of many years ago when I was a training doctor here. There was a 44-year-old guy who came forward to donate his kidney to his brother who was on dialysis. This 44-year-old guy was a picture of health, nothing wrong. All his blood tests were good, all his exam was good, everything was good, to the point that even surgery was scheduled within like a month of him being approved as a donor. His urine test also looked okay. There was nothing alarming. Typically, before donation, the doctors get a CT scan of the belly just to make sure that how many vessels are there in the kidney, which kidney should be ideally taken out if somebody is donating. They did a CT scan and they found that he had 2-centimeter big cancer on one kidney. He was completely asymptomatic. Just because he came forward to help his brother, it actually saved his life. So we sent him to the urologist. They did partial nephrectomy. They took that cancer out. It saved his life. Couldn't be a donor, of course, but he survived because of that. So imaging sometimes can be very helpful. This is a classic example of a particular disease called polycystic kidney disease. It's a genetic disease, very common. 1 in 500 to 1 in 1,000 people are affected in the country. And this is the kidney right here. And the white is what is normal kidney tissue. And all these round things that you see are essentially cysts in the kidney. And once these cysts become large enough, they essentially compress the kidney, and kidney cannot function. These are some of the other abnormalities in the kidney. I won't go into the details, but this is another example showing the same kidney with lots of cysts in it, liver with lots of cysts in it. So imaging sometimes can be very helpful for us to figure out what's going on. And last but not the least is a kidney biopsy. If we can't figure out what's wrong with somebody's kidney, we put a needle in the kidney, we look at the kidney tissue under the microscope, and that helps determine what kind of kidney problem they have. What about prevention? There are some things that are not preventable. Classic example being this disease that I was telling you about called polycystic kidney disease. People are born with a genetic abnormality that predisposes them to develop cysts on the kidney. Remember I showed you those healthy brown bean-shaped normal kidneys? That's what a normal kidney looks like. This is a kidney of somebody who has polycystic kidney disease. And if they have so many cysts, this kidney is just not going to work. And many people with this disease, either in their 40s, 50s, or sometimes a little bit later, develop kidney failure and end up on dialysis or need transplant. Many people have kidney stones. While most of these stones are preventable, sometimes, the first time people have stones, they don't know that they had factors that predispose them to stones. And this is just a picture of various kinds of stones that doctors have taken out from patients from kidney. They can be pretty big. Some of them are pretty big in size. Some things are not preventable. And some of the examples on this, like kidney cancer, we really don't know very many ways how to prevent it from developing. There There are, however, many kidney diseases that can be prevented. They fall under this category of modifiable risk factors. There's an old saying that a man is as old as his arteries. So once the blood vessels become bad as we age, and blood vessel is unable to supply blood to the heart, blood vessel is unable to supply blood to the limbs, hands, legs, body is not going to function very well. So it's very important to keep the blood vessels healthy. Two diseases which I think carry the most disease burden are diabetes and hypertension. And they are to a large extent preventable or at least modifiable or controllable. Really. And there are certain other things, drugs like cocaine, well-known risk factors for kidney problems. And kids are taught in school that these are not good things to use. So, some of them who fall trap can land up into kidney problems. Disease like HIV can cause AIDS and subsequently kidney failure, but these are all technically preventable problems. Another issue that's becoming a big issue now is liver failure from being overweight. If you are obese, they can develop a condition called NASH, which leads to liver failure. And many people who develop liver failure can subsequently develop kidney failure as a consequence of it. But these two are the ones that we are going to try and focus on for this talk. So let's say normal blood pressure is 120, 130, or 80, 85, somewhere in that range. If my blood pressure is 160, even 170, there is a very good chance I will have no symptoms whatsoever. And that's why hypertension is called the silent killer, that most people don't even know it. And they only find out once the hypertension has caused damage. And it's actually very simple. People can go to Walgreens, get their blood pressure checked, or even if they go for their annual visit, that's the first thing. I mean, think about the time you go to a doctor's office. The first thing the medical assistant is going to do is take your height, weight, and your blood pressure. You really need that vital to know where your pressures are to be able to help you. And it's very simple. It's non-invasive. Blood pressure cuff doesn't even cost $50. So it's not a bad investment. I mean, we think every household should have one blood pressure cuff. And while a lot of people blame the system for things, I particularly think that system is doing the best it can to tell people about things that can hurt them. So this is a picture that I took from close to downtown Milwaukee. This is a billboard. And I don't know who's invested money in this, whether it's the Milwaukee City or some other organization. But they are showing a live picture of a person saying that if you have high blood pressure, you can develop damage to your heart. And this is a person showing that he had open bypass surgery because of heart damage related to high blood pressure. So high blood pressure can affect multiple organs in the body. It can cause strokes, it can cause blindness, it can cause damage to the heart to the point that people can develop heart attacks, and it can definitely contribute to chronic kidney disease, kidney failure, landing up people on dialysis. Does anybody here know? Dialysis, right? If kidneys fail, then we sort of have to offer this treatment, or somebody chooses to be on it to clean their blood. It's sort of like an artificial kidney. There are 500,000 people in this country on dialysis. Not a lot, right? If the population is 350 or 400 million, nearly 500,000 people are on dialysis. Do you know who pays for dialysis? Yeah. Our taxes or the federal government. Can you guess how much does it cost the US government to dialyze 500,000 people in this country per year. What is the cost? All our numbers. 50 million. Okay. 500. Now you're talking numbers. 42 billion. B as in boy. 500,000 people. 42 billion is the cost. 7 out of 10 people who are on dialysis because high blood pressure or diabetes related to if everybody took care of their body, let's say even 50% of people could be prevented from going on to dialysis. You were talking about $20 billion saving. You could pay the student loans of everybody in this country in 5 years just by saving them. And we do the best from our end. When we see people in the clinic, we beg everybody, control your pressure, take your meds, control your diabetes, please for health. These are really not good diseases to have. And hypertension remains the most common cause of stroke and heart attack in this country. And it's very unfortunate. You would be surprised. If you were to look at almost everybody in the country, half the people don't have blood pressure control. And especially if you're older, then the systolic pressure is also a great predictor of damage to your blood pressure. Is generally a disease of old age. Very rarely would you know somebody who's 15 years old that have high blood pressure. But if you have friends in their 60s and 70s, sure, many of them will tell you that they have high blood pressure. And this is the same slide saying, prevalence of hypertension, whether somebody is black or white or Mexican. As they age, a good percentage of people develop this problem. In terms of what the cause is, it's complicated in the sense that there are many factors that contribute to this, including diet, including our body weight, salt consumption, and also as people get older, the blood gets stiffer. So some of the contribution could be from those causes as well. There are many things that people can do to control their blood pressure, and that's what most doctors will recommend for the lifestyle modification to control blood pressure. So, reduction in body weight will help. A diet, which is rich in fruits, vegetables, and so on and so forth, called the diet can be helpful. Reducing the amount of sodium in the food can be helpful. Physical activity can certainly be very helpful. And then moderation in terms of the alcohol consumption also. And these interventions will drop the blood pressures by ballpark these numbers that you can see in the right column. So definitely, this is the top. People lose weight, sometimes their pressures can go by 20, 30 points just by losing. People who are unsuccessful in adhering to those recommendations, high blood pressure, unfortunately, they end up being on a lot of blood pressure medicines. These medications are not free of side effects. We always recommend that, if you can control your pressure by the lifestyle modification, that's obviously preferable to using medications. But if those are things that you cannot modify, is obviously to go on medicine. So being on medicine is less risky than not being on medicine and having a high blood pressure. One of the things is that there's the committee called the Joint National Committee, or JNC, comprised of many doctors who are world experts in treatment of hypertension. They look at various studies all across the globe. And every few years, they come up with these guidelines as to what should be the ideal blood pressure which pressure medication is ideal for somebody who's diabetic. There's a class of medicine called ACE inhibitors, which tend to work very well to reduce the protein spillage, prolong the life of the kidney from bad effects of diabetes, and so on and so forth. And generally, these recommendations change over a period of time based on the availability of newer data. If somebody can fix the primary reason what's causing their hypertension, so let's say my weight is 350 pounds and my blood pressure is 180, and I'm able to, let's say, lose 200 kilos, there's a very good chance my blood pressure will normalize. But if somebody is unable to fix the primary thing that's driving the pressure up, you really will need to be on medications until you fix the primary etiology for elevated blood pressure. So it's, while this seems like a joke, but we see this many a times. We diagnose people with high blood pressure, we start them on medicines, they take it for a month or two, and their blood pressure is in good control, and then they just stop taking the medicine. And they don't come back to the doctor for 6 to 8 months. Back, their blood pressure is like 180 again, and they said, well, I took the medicine and my pressure got better. But that's not how it works. These the medicines only last a certain amount of time. So primary issue is not fixed. You will have to take them to control your blood pressure. The second big disease is diabetes. And there are two kinds, which I'm sure you're familiar with. And the other one is called type 2. Type 1 is when the pancreas does not produce insulin, so there is no insulin available to help with blood sugar control. And type 2 is when people have insulin resistance. And one of the most common reasons for weight. Excessive body weight predisposes to insulin resistance, especially truncal obesity. Somebody who's obese in the abdomen, that's what predisposes them to truncal obesity. This is a very good diagram, and I'll go over it in a second to explain how it works. So when we eat food, this is stomach, this is pancreas. When we eat food, these white dots represent sugar. Sugar gets absorbed into our bloodstream. In response, our pancreas produces insulin, which is blue in color here. So insulin will be released into the blood circulation. As this sugar and insulin travels to various cells, the insulin attaches it to a certain receptor. It will allow this receptor to open up and allow the sugar to go inside the cell. If the sugar goes inside the cell, the sugar that we measure in the bloodstream will not be high because the sugar is already inside the cell and is being used. But if there is no insulin, then the sugar will not be able to go inside the cell, and therefore the blood sugar levels will be high. This is classic for type 1 when there is no insulin whatsoever. In type 2, it's a different mechanism that the body just doesn't respond to insulin because of insulin. So this is very important. I teach a lot of medical students in the med school, and I tell them that if anybody develops a cure for diabetes, you can shut down half the medical schools and half the hospitals in this country. Because almost every third person in the hospital is there because of some complication related to diabetes. So these are really a very important disease, and we hope one day. How do we manage kidney disease? If somebody has acute kidney failure, like for some reason they just shut down, there are a lot of things that we can do, including figuring out, let's say, if the kidney shut down because they took an antibiotic to which they were allergic to. We stop that antibiotic. We can give people prednisone for some time to calm down the inflammation in their kidney. And then, if their kidney is not working, they have lots of toxins. We can do supportive things like temporary dialysis to keep their electrolytes in control, to keep their blood pressure in control, to not give them other medicines which could be potentially toxic to the kidney. And if somebody has chronic kidney disease that they have reduced kidney function, 20, 30%, so on and so forth, we can help with a lot of things, including controlling their blood pressure, their diabetes, educating them about certain medicines like, Motrin, Excedrin, so on and so forth, which can be toxic to the kidney. We help with management of anemia. We help with medicines that help control some electrolytes like calcium and phosphorus. We start preparing people. If they're candidates for dialysis, we prepare them, get them a fistula or a graft so that they can get dialysis, and also we educate them for transplant. Many times people have reduced kidney function to the point that they're approaching dialysis, and then we can find somebody from their family or friend circle who's willing to donate a kidney. And sometimes we transplant people even before the stage of dialysis. This is what dialysis looks like. If somebody has zero kidney function or very reduced kidney function, we can take out their blood through one of the arteriovenous access. With the help of a blood pump, we put this through a dialyzer, which can clean the blood, and then the clean blood is returned back into the patient's body. Typically, these treatments last 3 to 4 hours, about 3 times a week. They're effective in at least keeping the toxin levels within control. If somebody is a candidate, then the other choice is kidney transplant. So this is a diagram showing the native kidneys right here. We have a good donor available, be it living or deceased. We can take that kidney, connect the vessels of the kidney to the vessels in the leg, and then tunnel the ureter of the kidney that we've gotten from a donor into their native urinary bladder so that they can still make urine through a channel. And in the United States, about 20,000 kidney transplants are done per year. We do close to about 100 at NKFW. Thank you so much for your time, and I will be more than happy to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you. Yes, ma'am. So that's a very good question. For
Dr. Vasudev, can you repeat the question, please? Because
so she's asking what is a normal blood pressure. So, when you take blood pressure in healthy individuals, over 80 millimeters of mercury is considered like a normal pressure. Sometimes when people are a little older, so let's say if I'm 80 years of age and my blood vessels are very stiff, if you drop my pressure down to 120, I will not feel well. I have no energy. I'll get up, I'll feel dizzy, I might fall down. People who are older, especially in 70s and 80s, sometimes we let people get up to 140, even 145, somewhere in that range, and we go by their symptoms. If somebody tells me that at 138 or 140, I feel very dizzy, I can't function, I'm not going to say that, no, I want your blood pressure to be at 140 and it's okay if you're non-functional. That won't work, right? So we allow them to go up to even 150 sometimes. But beyond that, it's tricky. I think once you go beyond that 150 mark, then the high blood pressure will continue to damage the blood vessels.
Are there common drugs that we might take that would affect the kidneys negatively?
Right. So one of the most common drug, and it's unfortunate that it's an over-the-counter drug. If that drug was discovered now, I doubt it would ever be over-the-counter drug. I'm sure you know that I'm referring to these drugs called NSAIDs, Motrin, Excedrin, Aleve. These medicines are over a period of time. If you take once in a while, probably it's okay. If you chronically take 3 Motrins a day for 5-10 years, it would definitely affect your kidney function, even if you didn't have kidney dysfunction to start with. And people who have kidney dysfunction at baseline, so let's say if my kidney function is 30%, 40%, taking NSAID can drop my kidney function more acutely than what it would have done had I not taken blood pressure.
Cystic means a lot of cysts. How does one individual get all these as a result of birth or a transfer of the inheritance?
So there's a genetic mutation that's recognized. There are 2, in fact, that are very common in people who have polycystic kidney disease. And these genetic mutations lead to abnormalities in collagen, which is a compound that helps make the lining of blood vessels or lining of the tubules in the kidney. So when the collagen is not normal, these tubules don't, or these vessels don't have the strength, and these vessels can bulge out and form cystic structures. So people who have polycystic kidney disease, not only do they have cysts in the kidney, they have cysts in the liver, they have cysts in the spleen. They can actually have dilatation of blood vessels in the brain and form aneurysms in the brain. They can have similar outpouchings in the colon or diverticular disease. Almost 85% of people who have polycystic kidney disease will have outpouchings like that in the colon as well. So it's a thing that affects people from literally head to toe. And there can be lots of cysts, like a cyst in polycystic kidney patients, you might have 20,000 cysts in each kidney, 20 to 30,000, very small, microscopic.
The other question is kidney transplant, adding whole kidney to the hot body sector. Is there any chance or is there any relationship that that kidney can give them the polycystic quality?
Since the genetic abnormality does not exist in the transplanted kidney, the cysts will not develop in the transplant. So sometimes when we transplant people with polycystic kidney, the kidneys are just sitting there and then are symptomatic. Generally leave them alone. And one of the reasons is that it's not easy to take those kidneys out because of the cysts. Cysts are adhering to the wall of the abdomen and the tissue around. To take it out takes a lot of time. And it's a very complicated surgery, but a lot of inflammation, a lot of pain in that area. So if it's not bothering people, we do not take it out. Now, most of the time, the cysts will not continue to grow. Most of the time, they will just stabilize once the kidney is not working, the flow to the kidney is limited. Most of the time, it doesn't. Sometimes it might get a little bit bigger and symptomatic, and in that situation, surgeons can go in and take it out. But we take it out if it's causing symptoms, otherwise not. Yes, sir.
Some people are born with this one kidney.
That's correct.
And is that an inherited thing, or is that the way they are? And what kind of, I don't know how to ask any further question, but this does happen in an individual who's born with one kidney. So all the burden of the cleaning of blood is on the burden of that kidney.
That is correct. So there are people who are born with unilateral kidney, one kidney. And typically what this kidney does is that it becomes bigger inside to compensate for the missing one. So let's say the normal kidney size is about 10 to 11 centimeters. People who are born with a single kidney, or sometimes people who donate one of their kidneys, the other kidney can become 13, 14 centimeters size. It does work hard. Yes, sir. So it depends on what kind of kidney stone somebody has. The question was, what can somebody do to prevent kidney stone? The most common stone that people have is called as the calcium oxalate stone. A very good test that they do now is called as litholink or urolink. And basically what they do is that they collect urine of a stone former for 24 hours. In that urine, they check for various electrolytes. And sometimes people can have less amount of certain electrolytes that predispose to stone formation. If they figure out that you have less of certain electrolytes, they can supplement that electrolytes by mouth increase the content of those electrolytes in your urine thereby, and then you won't form antibodies. But one of the common things for all kidney stones that you have to drink more water and maintain a good urine output. And by good urine output, I mean 2 to 3 liters a day. That's the only definite way. And there are certain medicines also that people can use. Like there's one particular medicine called hydrochlorothiazide. Somebody has high blood pressure. You can take this medicine and it reduces the amount of calcium that's peed out in the urine. You reduce the amount of calcium being peed out, it makes less calcium. So it all depends on the kind of stone, but this is the most common scenario. No. You know, if I were to throw a ballpark number, I would say that if you make about 1 to 1.5 liter of urine per day, which in terms of ounces is ballpark about, I would say 33 to 45 or so ounces, around that amount. And you know, one doesn't have to measure it every day. One can sometimes measure it, you know, maybe once or twice at some point, and then get a guesstimate that, well, if I go to the bathroom 4 times a day, the amount of urine that I make is over a liter, and that's good enough. Right. Yeah. So, you know, if somebody has, and that goes back to the stone issue also, that if you have a high salt diet, you would have more chances of forming a stone. But in general, you know, when you eat more salt, it makes you thirsty, you drink more water, that sort of automatically increases your urine output. But excessive amount of salt is probably not good. You know, salt doesn't grow on trees, right? I mean, we at some point figured out that when we cook in seawater, you know, the food is tastier. We didn't know what it is in seawater that does it, but that's how humans at some point figured out that salt is really tasty. There is enough amount of salt in regular food that we eat that we really don't need to put extra salt. Ballpark about 1 to 1.5 liters, which is 33 to maybe about 50 ounces per day. That's plenty for most people. Now, there are, however, some advantages to increasing urine output besides the stone. That is, if somebody has good urine output, they may have less chance of having urinary tract infection. If somebody only makes urine twice a day, urine is sitting in the urinary bladder for 12 hours. There's an old saying, I probably might know it, that rolling stones gather no moss. If you keep the urine flowing, the chance of getting UTI will be less. Yes, sir.
Clear or cloudy or maybe green or whatever, yellow, does that have anything to do with it?
If your urine is really darker yellow, concentrated, or it even burns a little bit when you urinate, that generally means that you're not making enough urine.
The other person brought up the fact that kidney produces creatinine. What is the first? Is that the only body? Is that the only organ that produces creatinine?
So creatinine is produced by our muscles. So, you know, if somebody is 80 years old and petite, they will not make a lot of creatinine. If we check their blood and let's assume that their kidney function is 100%, the creatinine will be like 0.5 milligram per deciliter, like really low. Creatinine is essentially made by muscle. Kidney is the only organ that pees it out. The liver doesn't metabolize it, you know, spleen doesn't do anything to it. Produced by muscle and excreted by kidney. That's why we use it as a marker of kidney function. So let's say I am 80-year-old, petite, and I have not a lot of muscle, and my creatinine is 0.5. If, let's say, 6 months later or a year later, I get a blood test done and my creatinine is 1.5. That is elevated, 3 times elevated for somebody like me who doesn't have a lot of muscle. Shaquille O'Neal, on the other hand, has probably a creatinine of 1.6, and his kidney function is 100%. But still, his creatinine is high because he makes so much creatinine because of his muscle mass. So the creatinine level in the blood is a function of how much muscle mass you have.
I'm just wondering what advice you could give us at what point should a person who has constant energy after being treated by a primary care physician, at what point should a person
That's a very good question. Like, when should you go to a kidney doctor? The main thing that we do is based on all these techniques that I told you, we figure out what is the reason for reduced kidney function. That is something a primary doctor may or may not be able to do. I'll give you a few examples. Let's say you have a creatinine that's elevated to 2, and let's say your kidney function is 50%, and your primary doctor orders an ultrasound of your belly, and you have polycystic kidney, big kidney with a lot of cysts. Well, he'll be able to tell you that you have reduced kidney function because you have polycystic kidney disease. You may not really benefit from seeing a kidney doctor in that situation, because we really don't have too many medications, or in fact any medication for polycystic kidney disease. All we do is we help control the blood pressure and so on and so forth. Or if you've had high blood pressure for 20 years, and slowly in 20 years, your creatinine has gone from 1 to 2, and your kidney function is low, you're not spilling protein in the urine, so on and so forth. And if your primary doctor is very good, they might be able to tell you that you have reduced kidney function because of high blood pressure, and you need blood pressure control, whether I help you with that or your kidney doctor. But the most important thing we do is to figure out what is the reason for reduced kidney function. A lot of times when we send you back to your primary doctor with recommendations, that you think, and maybe come back and see us once a year or once every 2 years, but follow it. You're welcome. Yes, sir.
Another blood test result, I think it's called EFGR, and it always says it should just always be more than 59. What if you're always consistently just under that? How absolute is that if there's nothing else?
So what the computer programs do for us nowadays is that they take the blood creatinine, and then they put your age, race, gender, bunch of other variables, and based on a combination of these things, predict what percentage kidney function you have. Remember, I was telling you that ballpark kidney function is 100% normal. And by 100%, that's sort of a simplistic term. In actual terms, called the glomerular filtration rate, or GFR, of 100 ml per minute. That's the amount of urine that's flowing through your tubules, those initial part right after the filter. If you take a combination of all those 1 million filters, what is the amount of flow in all those filters combined? That's about 100 ml per minute. And we say that that's 100% kidney function. So this eGFR that you're telling me, E stands for estimated GFR, because it's not measured. It's estimated from your creatinine, age, race, gender, a bunch of other variables depending on the kind of equation that they're using, and they can extrapolate what your kidney function. Normal is 100. If it's saying 59 consistently or 58 consistently, then probably that's where that person's kidney function is. 58% in simplistic terms, or 58 ml per minute is the rate of the flow.
But you don't treat that.
Treat that in the sense that, let's say that person is diabetic and their sugars are uncontrolled. You tell them, my guys, if you don't fix these sugars now, this 59 in a year will become 49. It will become 39, and we'll be talking about dialysis. We do educate people about the etiology of their kidney function and help them find it or control it. you for your time. I really appreciate you coming all the way. And if you have any other questions, you can catch me later as well. Thank you.
We also have a lot of information on high blood pressure, diabetes, the GFR measurement, and we also have water. What age do you think the first we should ask the doctor to check? The age that we need to check? I should go. I'm serious.